This is about defending democracy. This is no longer Democrats versus Republicans. What do you want your kids to believe in? There must be give and take.
This is White Flag with Joe Walsh.
Just think about it. We're here because he couldn't accept an election loss. Sit back again and think about that for just a moment. We're going through all of this because Donald Trump lost an election 3 years ago and couldn't accept it. He wasn't man enough to accept it. He wasn't big enough to accept an election loss. He wasn't decent enough. He wasn't courageous enough. He wasn't empathetic enough. He wasn't patriotic enough. Donald Trump was the first, is the only president in the history of this country who lost an election and refused to accept that loss. Refused to participate in the peaceful transfer of power. Refused to concede, just concede. Refused to congratulate the winner. He's the only president in American history who lost an election and refused to do any of this. And that's why we're here. And then on top of all of that, right, on top of simply not accepting the will of the people and participating in the peaceful transfer of power, on top of all of that, he tried to overthrow the election results. He tried to overthrow the election. He tried to stay. He tried to stay in power. He incited and led a violent attempt to overthrow the election, which has put hundreds and hundreds of people in jail, convicted well over 1,400 Americans, all who believed Trump's lie that he didn't lose the election. And we're here. Everything we're going through right now politically is because of that. Think about this for a moment. As bad as Trump is, right, as evil as he is, as bad as he is, as dishonest as he is, as psychopathic as he is, if he had just accepted the loss, congratulated Biden, been upset about it, been pissed off about it, but done what every other president has ever done, right? Accepted the loss, conceded, congratulated Biden, gone to his inauguration, participated in the peaceful transfer of power, done all of that, right? Even if he wasn't happy about it, done what every other president has done, invited Biden to the White House, walked through the transition with Biden. As bad as Trump was, as bad as his presidency was, as dangerous as his presidency was, as bad as he mishandled COVID, if Trump had just done that and just accepted the loss, like every other president who lost an election, and then he decided to run for re-election like he is now, he'd be way, way up in the polls. He would beat Joe Biden. Wouldn't even be close. No contest. He wouldn't be on trial, right? He wouldn't have been indicted down in Georgia. He wouldn't have been indicted by Jack Smith for January 6th. Those two indictments would be gone. Forget about the New York and the Stormy Daniels and the financial thing and the classified documents thing. Big deal. That none of that would really matter. The two biggest indictments he's facing right now are trying to overthrow. All have to do with him not accepting the election results and trying to overthrow the elections. So that those would be gone. He'd be running against Biden. Biden's weak. Biden's numbers are terrible. Trump would be handily beating Joe Biden right now and on his way to becoming president again, I think fairly easily, if he had just accepted the 2020 election result. Think about that. As it is, he has a decent chance of getting reelected. But it would be automatic if he had done what every other president had done and simply accepted the will of the people. As bad and as unfit as he is. But of course, the moral of that story is Trump couldn't accept the election results. He couldn't have not lied about the 2020 election. He couldn't have begun to not lie about the 2020 election months before the 2020 election. He couldn't have not wanted his supporters and followers to get violent and try to overthrow the election, because that's who Donald Trump is. Donald Trump couldn't be anyone but himself. And here we sit with him, who he is. Here we sit, having to work our asses off this year to try to make sure he loses. Here we sit, having to support Joe Biden, who every single day looks and sounds and feels like he's 110 years old. But we'll do it. We'll do whatever we can to get this guy elected, because that guy, Trump, is unfit to be president, is a direct threat to our democracy. So we'll do it. I'm Joe Walsh. White Flag with Joe Walsh. My email, joewalshwhiteflag@gmail.com. That's one word, joewalshwhiteflag@gmail.com. Be brave.
Thank you for listening. Remember to listen, share, and follow White Flag with Joe Walsh on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere great podcasts are found. And be sure to leave a 5-star review. This has been White Flag with Joe Walsh.